Madamiya Yuri is a young lady who owns a chocolate store. She has telepathy, and she can hear the thoughts of people even when they do not intend that she should hear. While this may sound nice, having to hear what others think about you, it isn't always that worth it because you end up hearing things you do not intend to hear. Regardless, she has a good life, and one day, while working at her store, a man comes to buy chocolate with his daughter as a gift. His daughter wanted another pack of chocolate, but he doesn't have the money to get it for her. He tells the girl that he isn't buying, but in his thoughts, he thinks about the fact that he doesn't have enough money, and it is also sugar, and it will affect the girl. When Yuri hears this, she offers him another pack that has 2 different jars of chocolate, and the sugar isn't much. The man is so excited about her offer and appreciates her for it greatly. She recalls that about 12 years ago, she had gone to a cape with her father, and they were looking at the river. She mistakenly falls into the water, and since that accident, she has been able to hear people's thoughts. At first, she feels it is a very bad gift, but eventually, she found a way she could be using this gift to help people and make their lives better, and that seems okay to her. After the man leaves, her colleague and friend, Mahiro, tells her she is doing great with her skills and wonders why she doesn't have a boyfriend. Yuri thinks about how disadvantageous the gift could be when you have a lover. You end up knowing what your lover doesn't want you to know, and it spoils the joy in the relationship. For one, Yuri has a love of food. She loves good food, and she buys meal from a delivery company. The guy that delivers to her, Yoon To, is a student from Korean. Anytime he delivers a meal to her, he leaves her a good note asking her to enjoy the food and be energized. He also recommends a good spot for her to get more food, and whenever she tries to spot, it always hits. She is always excited to look forward to his food, and she even tells Mahiro about him and tells her he is like a god to her because he brings her good news about when to get food. At a time, she replies to one of his notes telling him that she enjoyed the meal, and he made him excited. On one fateful day, she orders a meal, and he is to deliver, but she finds out her order has been cancelled. Every other store claims they won't get her meal to her until an hour, and she can't wait that long. She eventually decides to go get the meal herself, but it was rainy, and she bumps into To by her door and almost falls. He carries her, and he clocks eyes with her, to her shock. She is unable to listen to his thoughts because he thinks in Korea. He tells her he had an accident on the way and the food had poured. He apologized to her, but she insists she is hungry and she needs food, so he offers to bring her the meal he had prepared in his house, telling her his house isn't far. He brings the meal for her, and she is so happy. His mother is late, and he works at a wildlife laboratory with a professor who is his boss, and also a colleague. He gets home that night, greets his mother's portrait and goes to eat, but remembers that he has given Yuri his food. That night, Yuri wonders why his thoughts are in another language while he speaks Japanese. The following day, To gets to work, and he looks at the note she had left him, and he is very excited. At work, Mahiro gives Yuri a chocolate gift, and Yuri considers giving it to To as a gift. She recalls it is around Valentine in Korea, so she changes her mind and gets a soap for him in her house. She remembers he told her his address when he brought her the food, so she goes to the location and gives him the gift. He appreciates her for it. He tells her he has the kind of soap, and he enters into his house to bring it for her. He shows her that he had used the soap to create bubbles for himself the night before, and quickly goes inside to bring out the bubbles and also the soap. He takes her to the rooftop and makes bubbles for her so she can enjoy the scene. She acknowledges that it is a good way to while away time, because it is also environmentally friendly, and she takes the bubbles to play with it. He asks if she would like to eat, and she jumps at the offer. He takes her inside his house and makes a meal for her. As she looks at the food, she gets angry. He recalls that the last time he lost her meal, she was angry too. He tasted the meal to show her it is good, and tells her he has noticed that when she is hungry, she gets angry. She eats the meal, appreciates him for it, and tells him she has become energetic again. He looks at her and recalls when he eats with his family, telling her it has been a while he had eaten with people, and he appreciates her kind gestures. She sees the reply she had given him in his house and her drawing of the sea otter. She rushes to it and asks why he has kept a copy, but he tells her that was the first reply he got. He tells her about his love for sea otters and also asks her if she loves it. She tells him yes, and he throws her a pillow of a sea otter. She compliments him that he is very innocent and carefree. The following day, he goes to work, and he is happy. He tells his friend and professor about her, and they ask him if it is love, but he says he doesn't know, and he will tell them later if it turns to love. Upon arriving at work, Yuri asks her colleague, Hanaka, if she really gets angry when she is hungry. He tells her yes and tells her she has been like that even before he met her. That means even since she was in school. She wonders why he didn't tell her before, but he claims she didn't ask him. He tells her she notices everything that is happening to people around her, but she is oblivious of herself. She receives a call from the hospital, and she rushes there to meet her father. She reveals that apart from the fact that she is using her gift to protect her company, one reason why she is happy with the skill is because she can communicate with her father. Her father has been hospitalized for about 12 years, and he can't talk, walk, or do anything. The nurse told her father, Makoto, had an emergency that day, and after the nurse leaves, she speaks with her father, and she reads her father's thoughts to get a response. On their visit to the sea that day, she was so excited that she jumped into the sea, and her father jumped right after her to save her. She received her telepathy, but her father got stroke from the encounter. When she entered the hospital to speak with her father in tears, she realized she could hear her father's thoughts. And it was that moment that she decided to use the power to gather money to take care of her father in the hospital. After she leaves her father's ward, she meets the nurse who tells her that her father is lucky to have a daughter like her who takes care of him. But she reads the nurse's thoughts and hears the nurse saying she pities her because she is just wasting her money on a man that can't even speak or communicate with her. She feels bad about the nurse's words, and she runs away. As she runs home, Tio sees her and calls out for her. He tells her it is his last day at his part-time work, and he wants her to clean the rooftop with him. She follows him there, and they clean all the grass there. Listening to his thoughts and the fact that she can't read his thoughts gets her concerned, and she runs away from him, asking him not to look at her. He runs after her and falls on her, then mistakenly presses the machine so all the grass scatters in the sky, and they look beautiful. He tells her that although the grasses do not have worth, they are beautiful depending on how they look at it. She thinks about her situation again, and she realizes there is joy in everything. She appreciates him for encouraging her again, and she sets out to leave. As she leaves, he invites her for dinner at his house the next day and asks her for the kind of food she would like to eat. He chips in and asks her if she likes him, and she comments that she likes him. Will this be the start of a great love story? Stay with me and let's confirm. The following day, Yuri gets to work, and she meets the surprise of her life. The same boy with whom she had declared that she likes is now an intern in her office. At first, she assumes it is a joke when Hanyoka brings him to her office. He screams as he sees her, telling her that he didn't know he was going to see her there. She also asks him immediately why he is there, and Hanyoka announces that he will be their new intern for 3 months, and if things goes well, he will be retained as a staff. Hanaka is shocked to see that T.O. behaves familiar to Yuri, and T.O. immediately announces that they are friends, but Yuri screams that they aren't, and T.O. only comes to deliver her meal. Regardless, Hanyoka takes T.O. to the other staff and introduces him to them. Yuri comes out angry, and T.O. asks her if she is hungry. She tries to control the narrative, trying to explain how they have met. She recalls that Hanyoka had always been against working with someone you have a personal relationship with, and he had fired some of their staff about 5 years ago because they were unable to differentiate their work life from private life. She doesn't want that for Tio, so she seeks to avoid him. After work, Tio runs after Yuri, telling her that he wants to prepare a meal for her. She stops him and tells him that their relationship has to be strictly business from that point, because if Hanyoka finds out that they have a private life, he may fire him. Tio doesn't care about that. He tells her that he will be fine regardless, but she refuses and she runs away. The following day, they go for a business meeting, and their meal gets delivered. A spicy meal was delivered for Yuri, and Tio knows she doesn't like spicy meals, so he gives her his food and takes her own. When the other staff ask why, he tells them it is because she doesn't like spicy food. They wonder how he had known, and Yuri quickly lies that it is because he delivers food for her. Upon leaving work that evening, Yuri sees Tio running with his clothes wet. She asks him what is wrong, and he drags her to his house. He had smoked fish inside the house without the ventilator, and the system assumed it was fire, so it started showering water. They call the landlord, who tells him that he won't be able to stay in the house for about 2 days. He tries to call his professor to stay with him, but his professor isn't around, so Yuri offers him her house. She runs to sleep, but dreams about him being in bed with her, and she feels bad when she wakes up. She begs him not to go to work with her, but he insists that since they are from the same house, there is no big deal. She goes to work and tells Mihiro about their new staff. Mihiro looks forward to meeting Tio and says he may be the love of her life, but Yuri stops her, saying it is office love. Mihiro reminds her there is no law against it. After work, Tio takes Yuri for dinner, and gives her a glass, telling her Yuri means glass in Korea. She pours water on her body and he goes to get a tissue for her. She looks at him in admiration, saying that it was cute for her to be in love with someone she doesn't hear his language. On their way, she asks him how he had come about working at her office, and he tells her that his professor visited Korea when he was a child and lived beside his house. His professor usually comes to play with him at home, and his mother will prepare food to get him energized. When his mother died, his professor brought him to Japan. He admits that his parents had divorced since he was a child, and he didn't have any father except the professor. He tells her that after he finished school, his professor told him that there are two different people, the ones that research and the ones that spread the research, and told him that since he is a jovial person, he can spread the research, so he should work at the company. He admits that he is excited to work at her company. He receives a call that his apartment has been repaired, and he goes home. She thinks about how she had decided to start her company too, and she realizes that he isn't wrong. She visits her father, who asks her to start taking home-cooked meals, and she tells him she has been eating home-cooked meals, which makes him wonder who had been cooking for her. The professor also visits her father, but when he sees her, he sneaks away without seeing them. He recalls that 12 years ago, when the incident happened, he was at the scene. That night, the team goes for a welcome party for To, and they all get drunk. Hanyoka gets more drunk and Yuri takes him to his house. She receives a message from To, who asks her to get ice cream with him. She searches what it means to get ice cream in Korea and sees it means he wants to be alone with her. She goes to meet him, reminding him that she can't have anything with him because of work. He realizes that she had been doing all of that for him and admits that he likes both her work self and her normal self. He tells her he will treat her like a boss at home, and in exchange, she will have private time with him after work. She runs away from him and refuses, but he tells her he wants her to like him. She sees his eyes and reads his thoughts in Korea again, which makes her scared. She eventually leaves him and goes home. He sends her several messages the following morning asking her if she woke up well. He also sends his picture to her, and also the breakfast he made for himself that morning, but she refuses to reply to any of them. When she gets to work in the morning, she sees him by the door, and she tries to sneak behind him, but he catches up to her and enters the elevator with her, telling her he will ensure they behave like just boss and worker at work, and nothing affects their work. At work, he is so strange to her. He doesn't give her any opportunity to speak with him, and he addresses her formally, telling her he is busy. This makes other staff suspicious of the way he is behaving. Handoka gets suspicious and asks to see him. He asks him not to overwork himself because of work, telling him the company gets busy when it is almost Valentine's Day and he doesn't have to get overworked. Hanaka asks him if he has anything bothering him, and he remembers that Yuri had told him Hanaka could fire him, so he denies having any worries. They receive a strange call at work that day from the chocolate festival. It is a Valentine festival that only chooses the best vendor, and they are excited to be chosen. However, there is a condition, which is that they must create a new chocolate candy before Valentine. Yuri calls a meeting with her staff, telling them how important the invite is and begging them to work with her so they can find a new product since the program is just in 8 days. She works with Mihiro, who tells her that the most important factor in creating a Valentine product is romance. Mihiro tells her it is obvious she is in love, and she complains about not hearing To's thoughts. That evening, To meets the professor and his colleagues and tells them about his love for Yuri, but complains that she doesn't reply to his texts. He tells them he sends a text in 15 minutes, and they advise him that it could be annoying, and he should find a way to show his love through implied manners. Yuri also visits her father, asking if her mother had once given him a Valentine gift. He tells her he got a chocolate-shaped spoon, which was the explanation for her love. The professor sees her speaking with her father again and goes home to check his record book of the incident that happened 12 years ago. He also browses how someone with full body paralysis could communicate. That night, while Yuri works, To brings her food and also flowers. When he gets home, he tells her the name of the flower and how it shows his love. She browses it and gets an idea that they could create flowers with chocolate, and buyers can go for the kind of flower that shows the love they want to show their lover. She tells her colleague of the idea at work, and they immediately get to the production. At the festival, she uses her telepathy to find out what the customer may want to show their lover and recommend the best flower chocolate for them. Mihiro also gets a flower for herself so she can give her next lover, and her female staff also gets a flower for her lover, who she calls a secret. To's colleague, Dr. Onoda, also attends the festival, and they give him a taste of the chocolate which he claims is the best he has ever eaten. Mihiro and the other staff are shocked that such a romantic idea can come from a hopeless romantic like Yuri, and after work, Hanaka appreciates her for her good work. When she returns to the office, Hanaka visits her with food and appreciates her for her work, because the profit they got that day, they haven't gotten it before. She tells him that the idea came from the flowers she got, and Hanaka wonders why could have given her flowers. After work, she goes to T.O.'s home to return his flask and also appreciate him for the flowers. He asks to walk her home, and on their way, she asks him to treat her normally. She goes to get ice cream for him, and he asks if they could at least go on one date, so she can appreciate him. She accepts to go with him, and he makes a pinky promise with her. The following day, he goes to appreciate the flower seller, and Hanaka sees him there and recognizes the flower as the same one in Yuri's office. He browses for the meaning of the flower, and he sees that it is to show love, which makes him wonder if there is anything between them. Yuri is so glad they are both understanding each other. She goes to work, and she keeps staring at him. She notices that he and Nishina, the female staff at work, are so close, but she assumes it is nothing. She stakes out for him after work, so they can enter the elevator together, and in the elevator, she asks him when he wants their date to be. He asks if she is free on Valentine night, and she accepts to meet with him that night, so he asks for another pinky promise. But before they could clock hands, Hanaka enters the elevator. On Valentine morning, he sends a message to her reminding her of their date. Upon arriving at work, she sees him asking Nishina if she had eaten, and she wonders if he is that carefree with everyone. Suddenly, they find out that the farmer in charge of their new fruit candy has an emergency because his wife has slumped, and he won't be able to finish production. They need the strawberries to be available that night so the production can continue, and Hanaka offers to visit the countryside to finish plucking. He needs someone to go with him, and Yuri offers, but he tells her they can't both be absent from work on Valentine's Day. He asks T.O. to follow him, and reluctantly, T.O. accepts, but hopes to return for his dinner that evening. On his way, he takes videos for Yuri and tells Hanaka that it is for the woman he likes, but Hanaka tells her he knows it is Yuri, and Yuri doesn't like things like that. On the other hand, Yuri meets with Mihiro to find a gift to get for T.O. that evening. Mihiro tells her she has a new man she has feelings for, and also tells her that if she doesn't hook her position with T.O., Nishina will take T.O. from her. She gets a message from T.O. who tells her Hanaka is now aware of their relationship. They go to the hospital to meet the farmer, and the farmer goes home with Hanaka to continue plucking, while T.O. remains at the hospital to take care of his wife. When his wife recovers, he takes the woman home, and the couple ask them to have dinner, but T.O. refuses. The farmer figures that he may have a date that night since it is Valentine's Day, and to stop T.O. from going for that date, Hanaka tells the farmer they will stay and calls Yuri to inform her that they are staying. On the other hand, the professor asks Onoda who T.O. is in love with at the company. When Onoda suggests it may be the CEO, the professor screams that T.O. can't do that, and Onoda reveals it is Mihiro. Suddenly, Onoda receives a message from Mihiro who asks to see him that evening. They assume it is because she likes T.O. too, and she needs Onoda's help in getting T.O., so the professor asks Onoda to go. Upon arriving at the restaurant, Mihiro says her heart keeps fluttering, and Onoda tells her it is love, and she shouldn't keep it. She also gives him the chocolate flowers, asking him to check the meaning. He asks if she knows the meaning, and she tells him she wants her love to be noticed, so he tells her that her love is noticed, and he leaves without knowing that she wants to prove her love to him, and not T.O. At the farmer's house, Hanaka gets drunk and tells T.O. that Yuri can't fall in love with him, and she barely knows love. Later, Yuri visits her father, who notices that she is moody. He tells her she may be in love, and she shouldn't hold the feelings. She returns home and receives a call from T.O., who apologizes for breaking their pinky promise. She gets a knock on her door, and upon going to check, she is shocked to see T.O. there. She opens the door, and he apologizes for breaking their promise, and gives her the strawberry he had gotten as a gift. He attempts to leave, and she asks him if he is leaving. He wonders if she is lonely, but tells her he won't be able to stay because Hanaka is in the car. He taps her head, telling her that she should dream about him, and he leaves. As he leaves, she imagines him naked with her again. The following day, she attempts to give him the gift she had told Mihiro to make for her, but she sees Nishina giving him a gift and communicating with him in Korean language. She feels jealous and hides her gift, then returns to her office. Hanaka comes in with a document for her to sign. He sees the chocolate and asks if Mihiro has made it, telling her that she shouldn't abuse her power. He tells her she has changed, and she wasn't someone who uses emotions to do things. As he walks away, he goes to the balcony and remembers he had overheard one of her conversations with Mahiro, where she said she had never had a boyfriend, and he hoped she wouldn't get one, but now he is disappointed. After work, Tio takes Yuri on their date. As they eat, she comments that she is glad Mahiro has seen someone she likes, and he tells her he is happy too. Then asks her if she has seen someone she likes too. She refuses to answer, and she keeps asking about Mahiro, which makes him reveal that Mahiro is in a relationship, and he only sees her as a sister. He also reveals that Mahiro gave every worker at the company the same gift she gave him, and it wasn't special. He asks her if she is jealous, and she excuses herself to the bathroom, where she recalls her father's words about letting the feelings flow. They take a walk and leave the hospital. He sits her down and uses a ribbon to tie a ring on her hand, revealing that he likes her. As he leaves her, she decides to step up too, so she runs to him and gives him the gift. She bids him good night, but he drags her back, and she locks eyes with him and hears his thoughts in Korea too. He recalls a book his sister had read to him about a girl who reads the mind of people until she meets a man with a kind heart. She sleeps and wakes up thinking about the word Nuna that she heard from his mind. She goes to work and watches Nishina and another worker watching a Korean series where the word Nuna was mentioned, and they also go for a meeting. At the meeting, Hanaka tells them about the success of their festival and shows the survey of what made people love them. However, the environmental benefit wasn't part of the high reasons, and this is one of the major aims of their company, so tells them they are to use the school program they are organizing at Tio's school to talk about the environmental benefit of their chocolates. Tio is leading the program, and he tells them he will prefer what the students can touch and feel, so they plan to deploy cacao to the program. Nishina is to work with Tio for the program, and Kame asks Tio to see Nishina as a Nuna. This makes Yuri go to her office to find the meaning of Nuna, and finds out it is used when someone is a fan of another, and it doesn't denote any relationship. She also searches for the meaning of the words Tio has used for her, and finds out it means like, and not love, which means he may not love her. Onoda also calls Tio to offer to help Tio for the program. Before ending the call, he tells him the lady he likes gave him chocolates, and that shocks Tio. Tio goes for lunch with his colleagues, and they talk about how Hanaka is special to Yuri, and how she depends on him that makes Tio feel like he isn't special. Before work ends, Hanaka tells Yuri that he is considering retaining Tio considering how the program goes the next day. He asks Yuri what she thinks, and she remembers that he had said he liked her because she doesn't use emotions, so she tells him that he should make the decision by himself. She goes to meet Mahiro and complains that he had never told her he loves her. Tio also goes to the professor and says that she doesn't see him as special. Onoda shows the chocolate he got from Mahiro, and Tio says that is the same chocolate he got from Yuri, which means it isn't special. Onoda reveals that she had come to meet him, and he is special to her, and this makes Tio more encouraged. Mahiro advises Yuri to tell Tio about her feelings. As they walk, they see Onoda, and he tells them Tio has just left. Onoda tells them to find Tio by the tank, and Mahiro encourages Yuri to go. After Yuri leaves, Onoda wonders why Mahiro isn't, and she doesn't understand what he means. She finds out he isn't a medical doctor, but an academic doctor, and that gets her disappointed regardless. She asks him if he knows the reason she called him on Valentine night, and he tells her yes and says he has been thinking about it. He is still very confused about what she wants and still assumes it is Tio she wants. When Yuri gets to the tank, she meets the professor who tells her that Tio has left. She wonders if she should send Tio a message, but she reconsiders, and she coincidentally gets a message from him where he tells her he has set up the venue for the program. She calls him, and they talk, so he finds out where she is, and he comes to meet her. Before he gets there, she receives a text from Ehara, one of her workers, but she doesn't open the text. They take a walk, and she asks what he wants. He goes closer to her to plant a kiss on her mouth, and asks her if she now knows. She looks at him, and hears him say he loves her in Korean, and also in Japanese. She replies that she does too, and he wonders what she is replying to, which makes her run to her house awkwardly. They arrive at the venue of the program the next day, and Ehara asks her for the cocoa bean that he had kept on her table. He tells her he sent her a message about it the night before, and she realized she didn't open the message. When Hanaka and Tio enters, they realize there is no beans. She runs to Hanaka and apologizes to him for fucking up, telling him she will do anything to correct the situation. He suggests that they buy new beans from the nearby market and fry it in front of the students. Tio sees how special Yuri takes Hanaka and how she looks forward to his opinion about everything. As the program starts, the professor asks Onoda if it is Mahiro that To is in love with, and Onoda says yes, which makes the professor excited. The program ends successfully and Hanaka tells Yuri that they should hire To. They return to the office and Yuri apologizes to Hanaka again as he leaves the office. He tells her that there is no rule against office romance. She looks into his eye and she hears him reveal that he was in love with her, but he is fine now. She feels bad that she was oblivious of the feeling of someone that is close to her, and she walks home depressed. She finds To in front of her house. He tells her that he wants to be special to her and asks her if she likes Hanaka. She tries to run into her house, but he begs her to stop. He tells her he likes her and asks her if she likes him in return. In tears, she tells him she doesn't like him. Will this be the end of the lovers? Will this cute love story get a good end? Watch out for part 2.